Welcome to the Get Over Yourself podcast. This is Brad Kearns.
So it's a matter of, they enjoy it. So when you enjoy it and you have a little success, you do more of it. And it kind of breeds on itself. And then finally I told him that, if you start playing volleyball, you're going to be dunking earlier. And his eyes lit up. He said, do you think I could dunk in ninth grade? I said, I know you'll dunk in ninth grade. And so next year he joined volleyball. And he did dunk in ninth grade.
Here's a quick thank you to our sponsors. They make this show possible and the tremendous production behind it online and in audio. Thank you, wildideabuffalo.com. Grass-fed, locally raised on the Great Plains for the last 130,000 years. Quit eating that junk food feedlot cattle and get some quality meat into your life. And thank you, DNAfit.com. Cutting-edge genetic testing, delivering customized diet and exercise recommendations for your peak performance. Use the discount code GOY30. Get over yourself. Integro Probiotics make this fabulous liquid probiotic high potency. It's called Flourish, so your microbiome can flourish. Gut health is everything. Get started. Visit entegrohealth.com. And Tribali Foods, pre-made, creatively flavored hamburger and chicken patties. When you're in a rush, drop one down, fry it up. It's delicious. Tribali. And Almost Heaven. That's the name of my sauna. These are beautiful home-use saunas made of real wood, shipped to your door, easy to assemble, and then you are rocking. That's right, I'm going from chest freezer cold therapy into the hot barrel sauna. Check them out at almostheaven.com. And the Primal Blueprint online multimedia educational courses. To go primal, go keto, get a stand-up desk going, master the challenge of endurance training. Go to bradkearns.com and click on the links to learn more about these courses. If you're sick of my voice on the podcast, you can now get sick of my face too on the videos. And Ancestral Supplements. This is grass-fed liver, organ meats, and bone marrow delivered in a convenient gelatin capsule. Don't stress about cooking liver anymore. Just pop some pills or throw capsules into a smoothie every day like me. And now on to our show. Hi, friends. I'm excited to introduce my guest, Dave Kobrine. Haven't heard of him, haven't Googled him. He's an old friend of mine, kind of an understated, ordinary guy doing his thing. When I asked him to be on the show, he said, well, I'm not sure if your listeners will find anything interesting, but I think you can be the judge. And wow, we had some great stuff coming out. The reason I wanted to get him on the show is because he is living the dream, man. He has the incredible commitment to a healthy, fit lifestyle. His morning routine is going to blow you away and get you inspired to do something similar yourself. Dave was a huge inspiration to me over the course of my life, particularly to start doing triathlons back in the early 80s. He was one of the early Hawaii Ironman guys while he was still in college. He was a high school basketball star who had an unlikely journey all the way onto a walk-on spot at UCLA, the number one team in the nation back at that time. And all kinds of fun stuff come out. The amazing Kobrine family, whom I wrote about in the final chapter of the book, Primal Endurance. You'll hear some name drops from the appropriate siblings and father, and also his kids who both found their way into the very highest level of elite high school sports in both basketball and volleyball. And Dave will talk about how he navigated that sometimes arduous journey these days. So I think you're going to get some great stuff out of this. Dave was also the guy that got me all the way deep into cold therapy when I walked into his master bathroom one day a couple years ago, and there it was, wedged against the wall in his beautiful marble sunken tub, a chest freezer. I'm like, what the heck is that? And he showed me about how he's making giant ice cubes with plastic bins, dumping him in the bathtub, doing his cold plunge every morning. And then we sort of together navigated the opportunities for a more sophisticated experience and finally going all in with the chest freezer cold therapy that you see on my YouTube video. Dave follows suit and enjoys that every morning. Great show. I really hope you get some good stuff out of it. Enjoy Dave Kobrine down in Orange County, California. Here we are, Orange County, California. I'm with my very old friend, Dave Kobrine, dating back to high school days. How you doing, Dave?
Great, thanks. Thanks, Brad. It's a lot of fun to be here with you.
Yes, when your agent pitched me for the show, you said, "Oh, I don't know if anyone will be really interested." And I said, "You know what? There's so many cool things about your story and your athletic background, your incredible kids' athletic background now. But I want to start with your morning routine because it's so simple and inspiring, and I just think that it's a really important part of life to kind of have that competitive edge and that focus getting going every day where fitness is a big part of your life and you have these patterns that work for you and have inspired me. You were the guy that got me into cold therapy, which is now so famous and, it's gone viral. My YouTube video has over 2,000 views, maybe more after the time of this recording. But when I walked into your master bedroom, I was just awed and inspired. So tell me about how you got into the cold thing and what you do every morning.
Right. Well, that was my stage one. I've evolved quite a bit since then, thanks to you, actually. But my starting out the morning routine, what I like to do is wake up and basically start moving. Because the first thing I do is I get up, I actually do 5 to 10 minutes of stretching and movements, push-ups, squats, some stretching, you actually motivated me with your 7-minute video. I don't do that in my bed, but I actually get out of bed and do my little thing.
You just made it up yourself, basically?
Yeah. Whatever.
Joni Kobrine, yoga instructor, help out with any of that?
I do have some yoga moves in there that she taught me.
We're going to drop in every Kobrine name by the end of the recording. It's going to be nice and smooth and natural. So we got Joni first. Yes. Dad's coming up soon. We're going to drop that bomb, that 30 for 30, because that's a... Wait, did they name that ESPN documentary after your dad? We'll check in later. So you do this stretching and it's...
Yeah, you get up and start moving and do some stretching. And then I like a lot of people do, I drink a lot of water in the morning.
Oh, really?
I drink a big, huge container of water that I put by my bed while I do my stretching.
No, where'd you get that? Was that Laird Hamilton telling you that? Or?
I'm not sure where I picked up each of these things. I think a variety of people throughout the past few years as I learned.
Dang, I'm going to add that, man. I don't really make a big point. Now,
I like that. I like it.
It's getting hydrated after a night's sleep.
Right, because I've heard that you get dehydrated during the evening and while you sleep, and so I actually do a big mug of water. I don't know how many, 23, 24 ounces. Add some salt to it and some lemon. And,
so a pinch or two of salt, a little bit of lemon.
Yeah,
okay.
A little bit more. 3 grams roughly.
So let's pause there. And the reason for adding that salt?
Well, it replaces minerals. I mean, it replaces minerals is the reason I do that.
Yeah, Kelly Starrett says that if you just slam yourself with water, you're going to pee it out because you're overloading the system and it needs that constant sodium balance, which we always work hard to do with our kidneys dropping in exactly the amount of sodium. So if you have, I guess it equates to like a pinch per 8 ounces. So if you're drinking 24 ounces, you're throwing in a fair amount of salt.
Right.
And then you're going to be more easily absorbing those into the tissues throughout your body. That's his message.
Right. And I seem to like it. I actually feel much better in the morning after I drink that big mug of water. And then I actually make a big, huge smoothie after that. I don't drink it then, but I go downstairs, make this big, huge smoothie that I bring to work. And then right after that, I jump into the cold water.
Yes. And it started backwoods, cowboy style with the bathtub. Tell us about the old regimen and how long that took.
I've evolved. I'm in stage 3 right now. Primitive mode was I had a big ice chest in my backyard and in my bathroom. And
excuse me, in your bathroom, you had an ice chest.
I had a big ice chest in my bathroom. I don't know, maybe it was about a 10 cubic foot ice chest. And I had to devise ways to get ice in there. I mean, I tried baggies. I was very primitive and couldn't figure out the best way to do it. I finally just got these big plastic containers from Home Depot or somewhere and filled them up and filled the water up and dumped in the ice. And it seemed to work.
So you filled the water, you filled the containers and then put them in the freezer.
Overnight.
And then so in the morning you can just dump them out.
Exactly.
Right. They're big chunks of ice.
Big, huge chunks of ice through my bathtub. Two issues with that were that, one, it took a long time for it to get cold. So I would have to wait 25, 30 minutes before it got to a good temperature. And two, it never really got that cold. At the time it was cold. It was 55 degrees. And I thought, wow, that's really cold. Again, this was stage one. Eventually, thanks to you, Brad, I moved to the 100-gallon tub that I threw in my backyard. So I didn't have to fill my bathtub every day, every night, every morning.
This is like a stock tank you see on the farm,
right?
On your Newport Coast farm, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Big horse water container, it's 100 gallons, and had the same ice chest. Just moved it in my backyard, and always had it filled with ice and threw it in there. And again, it was the same issue of taking 20, 25, 30 minutes before it got cold enough, and still would never get cold with that. That actually only would get to maybe 58, 59, 60 because there was so much more water in there.
Yeah, so if you dump the ice in, and then it's going to melt by the evening every day in Orange County, or what?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's not going to stay cold.
No, it would melt while I was in it, and the next day after I was done, I would fill it up the containers with big buckets this time. Big buckets, fill the water, put it back in the chest, and by morning it was ready for me.
Yeah.
It was still not perfect. Then current state is what you brought me to is I finally got the 15 cubic foot freezer, filled it with water, and got it cold, and it's always there for me whenever I want it. So now I go in there for about 3 to 4 minutes between 35 to 40 degrees. And always, when I get out of that, I always feel great. I mean, I know sometimes in the morning it's hard. You don't want to go in. But I always tell myself, you're going to feel great when you're done. And I always do. So now I don't even think about it. It's just automatic. You just make the smoothie, put it in your put it away for when you get to work later, and get in the ice chest.
That's a great comparison there. You make the smoothie and you jump in the freezer. And I was talking to our resident psychologist, Dr. Lindsay Taylor, behavioral psychologist, co-author of the Keto Reset cookbooks and the queen of the Facebook groups of Primal Endurance and Keto Reset. And she's talking about how we have this concept of willpower and how you have to summon willpower, and you're so strong-minded and you're so disciplined to go do this and go do that. But it's like a depleting asset. And if you summon willpower so many times a day, by the end of the day, you're going to go, fuck it, I'm going to have some Ben & Jerry's now and go off my diet. So like getting into that tub has now become an automatic behavior, which has such a profound impact on all the other things you do in life because you don't require any willpower to jump in. And you mentioned how you used to at the start, like, oh shit, okay, I got to go. I'm committed to this. I'm going to go jump in that water again. But I feel that same sensation where, it's a little unpleasant. The best part is like bringing your friends over and they stick their hand in, which is the worst thing to stick in. And they're like, oh my God, dude, you're crazy, But after building up that momentum, I feel that, I feel like it's improving my life in many ways because here's something that I can do that requires zero willpower, zero thought. It's an automatic behavior, but it's beneficial for my health. And so then apply that to, hey, do you clear your email inbox every day at work? Are you too lazy? And so you kind of become a more focused and centered person just from jumping in the water. Yeah, exactly. And it really what it is a habit. It's not using willpower. It's a habit, and the habits you just do automatically. And that's what I found it. I don't even think about it. You just go and you do it. And I totally agree with the willpower. The more you use, the more you deplete it. Very familiar with that. All right. So after I get out of the ice bath, sometimes I might do some quick exercises like 50 to 100 push-ups to warm up, or so the stuff in the morning was just kind of stretching, not a big operation, just getting moving. Yeah, movement. I might do 20 push-ups and about 20 or 30 squats, and then some stretching, just to start moving. Then after the ice bath, I basically get my running shoes on, and I go up to a trail by my house, and this again is very therapeutical. I do a real easy, Maffetone type run. 180 minus age. Well, I'm getting a little too old. How old is this guy now? Well, you got to be over 50 years old by now. 57. Oh my goodness. Dave was a few years ahead of me at Taft High School in Los Angeles, and we're going to talk about the days of basketball stardom and all that. So 180 minus age is getting to be a pretty low number.
Yeah.
And in fact, for those listeners who are familiar with this whole thing, we talk about it a lot on the Primal Endurance podcast, but you can start to get back a few beats if you're maintaining fitness as you get into those older decades. So maybe 180 minus age plus 5 or plus 10 is appropriate for you because your heart rate is not declining at that 1 beat per year as a formula might, your maximum heart rate. Hi, Dave Kobrine's office. He's on a podcast now.
So
you're running somewhere around there. Are you actually strapping on a watch? Or just taking it easy?
No. I keep my watch or my heart strap on. I keep it under 130. Is the number I use as my basis. Probably a little high on the Maffetone scale, but I still feel comfortable with that. And I do a real easy run on the trail, and about half mile away is this beautiful ocean view. So I'm seeing that every morning. And I'm getting air and sun. That's the first thing you do in the morning is get air and sun. I like to get the sun on me. It's a 2-mile course I do. And again, it's not a workout per se, but it's just more just getting going, getting moving, getting air, getting sun. And in the last mile, I might do some easy strides. I don't keep my heart above 130, so I might do 10 to 20 yards of strides just to loosen up. And I always feel better when I do that as opposed to just going at a steady pace. Then I go directly to the gym.
Wow. Wait a second. How much time has elapsed now if we're counting at home from the time you woke up and went into the sequence?
Well, I get up at 6. And so, usually about 7 or so, I'm on the trail. And my goal is to get to work by 9. That's my goal. A lot of times I get distracted. There are days I get distracted, but I go to the gym, and all I do at the gym in the morning is I take a 20 to 25 minute sauna. So in that really, I come out of the sauna, take a cold shower, and I'm golden. I'm ready to work for the rest of the day.
Pretty nice. What do you think about the sauna? Have you looked into that? I know you listen to a ton of podcasts. That's why we're so glad to get you on. You're like the podcast aficionado. We talk about them all the time.
Especially yours, Brad.
Of course, right. Dr. Rhonda Patrick's stuff.
Yes.
We've talked about that, and it seems like some amazing benefits to accrue from sitting in that sauna.
Well, truthfully, I try a lot of different things, and I evolved to this. This is where I'm at right now. I'm sure it'll change over the years or over the months even. But what I experiment a lot of things, and I find what works for me. And I may not know the science behind it or why it's doing what, but I know when I do that every morning, and I get to work at 9-ish, I feel super good, and I'm wide awake, plenty of energy, and very sharp. So that works.
So that's every day. And then you're also hitting the gym as well. How often and what are you doing for the actual gym workout? Yeah,
I like to go to the gym in the evening, somewhere between 4 to 6, depending on what I got going on that night. I found that trying to do it right after in the morning, I wouldn't get as good as a workout, and then I'd be sitting and going home and not moving in the evening. And so I like to split it up. So I'm doing something in the morning, and then the evening, I get better workouts because I'm more warmed up. I'm not, I hadn't had like 2 hours of stuff going on before, with the run and the ice bath and all that. And I find I'm recharging myself in the evening, and I'm going to the gym probably 4 to 5 days a week, and then maybe 1 or 2 days a week I might actually do a hard run, or some kind of interval training type of thing.
And so what are you doing in the gym, like body weight or pulling the machines?
I really limited my gym workouts to a handful of exercises. I mean, I like to do squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, military presses, and some dumbbell bench presses. I also do a lot of push-ups. And that's primarily what I'm doing in the gym. And actually, the first half hour of the gym is strictly stretching and mobility exercises.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where'd you get those?
I got them from various places. I mean, no specific spot.
And you're going through the same routine every time?
Pretty much, I do.
You're like a routine guy here.
Some people have said a creature of habit. I've heard that more than once.
Whatever works. And so what keeps you going these days in terms of you going for certain goals like a mud run or obstacle course? That's the last time we checked in. I know you've done a bunch of other stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Right now, I'm not really competitive anymore. I mean, not that I was ever competitive. I wasn't a pro triathlete or anything. But
we'll be the judge of that when we hear about this UCLA stuff.
No, I was never a real competitive athlete. I was more of a participant. And I participated in a lot of triathlons and things like that. But now I'm headed more towards the Spartan type obstacle courses. I did one in Chino in January. It was a ton of fun. I'd like to do more. Right now, I'm kind of nursing a couple bad elbows that I messed up by jumping out of the ice bath and doing like 100 pull-ups in a row really fast and
to warm up.
I got all this energy and did like a ton of pull-ups as hard and fast as I can when I got out of the ice bath, and so I'm nursing those elbows back. But once those are back, I'm going to do some more Spartan runs.
Yeah, those pull-ups are tough. I believe I picked up tennis elbow from a combination of that and hitting too many golf balls. And then if you get that tennis elbow, it takes a long time to heal. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a while.
We gotta watch out. Take some more collagen protein in your smoothie.
I do.
So that's where you are today, 57. Now we're going to wind back the clock. Oh my gosh, that's like probably 40 years to 17, and you were out there at Taft High. And this is a large Los Angeles City high school with big population there. And turns out you and your gang was pretty competitive in basketball. And I'll tell the listeners that what's amazing is like you guys still hang out all the time, and this basketball team from 40 years ago has kept that social connection all this time. But tell us about your high school days and how you got into that big time LA competition, because you guys went to city finals and played in front of a sold out sports arena, 12,000 people or Pauley or whatever. It was big time playing, not some kid from the farmlands that got third in the state in Ohio, Iowa, but this was the real deal out there.
Well, I don't know about that. It was high school basketball in 1979. We did one thing you did mention is very true, is that the entire team is still very close. We talk all the time. We go get together all the time. We don't play sports anymore all the time. Unfortunately, we tried for years, but one by one we all dropped out of competition.
But you had these, what was it, the 8-foot?
9-foot.
World champion. So the 9-foot World Basketball Championships. And this stuff, I went nowhere near that because I was doing triathlons, and I knew if I showed up at that park, I was recruited by a few teams, but this was like pretty serious competition going for those. The 9-foot title, what was the name of the title?
We call it the speed tournament, of course, because that was the name of our team.
Right.
But we did that for about, 10 years out of high school. All our high school team would get together and play on 9-foot baskets and have a competition, and it was even more competitive than the city championship game because it meant more to us.
So back on that Taft team, you got in there. I guess you were a youth player and played at a good level in the San Fernando Valley. And then when you got to high school, were you pretty much focused on making basketball your sport and knew what you were in for?
Yeah, I mean, it was really the sport I concentrated on in high school. I didn't play multiple sports, and it just for the other sports it didn't interest me at the time.
They weren't interested in you either, I guess.
Well, actually,
maybe not.
The volleyball coach tried to get me out to play quite a bit. I don't know if you remember Mr. Mori.
Imagine that, the volleyball coach. We're going to pick up that sport a little later.
And I look back and I was so disappointed I didn't play that sport back then, because when I got out of college, that's all I did is play beach volleyball. And you had a big advantage if you played in high school. But no, it was just strictly basketball. The best thing about it is, like you mentioned, is that we have lifelong friends from that team. And yeah, we were competitive. We got second in the city, and we did play in front of like 10,000 people at Pauley Pavilion, which is a thrill when you're 17 years old, and especially when you went to every UCLA game since you were like 10 years old in the Pauley Pavilion to go there and play. It was just a big thrill.
Yeah, that's a culmination of high school dream. Fantastic.
Right.
But then you ended up at UCLA, and decided to dabble in a little bit of basketball. So tell me how that whole thing went.
Well, it was a lot easier to get in back then, okay? Because I wouldn't be getting in right now.
First of all, let me state that same with me at UC Santa Barbara. I floated in the back door. You know, my poor kid, you know, we have kids the same age that are now just in college, and, you know, the rigorous requirements to get in either as an athlete, which is a nice way in, and that's really hard work, or as a student. But, you know, back in our day, my dad's like, so Dad, what was your GPA when you went to UC Santa Barbara? I'm like, oh, it was like a 2.8 in high school. Much better in college.
Well, I just said, yeah, I got in.
That's all you need to say.
Yeah, I got in. Did what it took to get in back then, which wasn't nothing like today. In my first year there, I played on the JV team and did pretty well, and had a lot of fun with that. And then in the second year, I was a pretty quiet kid, and I knocked on the door, and Larry Brown answered the door, and walked up to the athletic office. And I knocked on Larry Brown's door, and I said, "Hi, I'd like to play in the varsity this year." And he said to me, "Sure, come on out." You know, he knew me. He actually, back then, for whatever reason, my nickname was All World, and I don't think he knew my real name. The JV coach called me All World all the time. So I said, All World, come on in. Yeah, you could play.
Wow.
And so he, was very nice and let me play.
So Larry Brown, noted NBA and college coach, probably a Hall of Fame level coach who did so many things, including take Allen Iverson and the Sixers to the finals, one of the worst teams to ever make it to the NBA finals besides Allen.
At one point, he had the Clippers' best record ever as the coach.
Wow. Yeah, he was known for like jumping in and turning places around and then leaving soon after. He was very peripatetic, right? So you had a spot on the varsity, and were they pretty good at that time?
Yeah, I think we were number one ranked at the time. I mean, I had a spot, but let's just be honest about that. I don't make any. Be honest about it. I was really the 13th man on a 12-man team. You know?
That's going to be a pull quote for the for the podcast. The 13th. Listen to how understated this guy is. I mean, this is a kid from the Valley, San Fernando Valley, who liked basketball, made it work in high school. Your teammates. The cool thing about that Taft team, it was so well oiled because you guys were buddies, and you just go, and it was poetry to watch, especially the city quarterfinal game, which he's turning red now if you're not watching, because I tease him about this all the time. But you tore that house down. Like, it was one of the greatest athletic performances I've ever seen, because this is a do or die game, and like you expressed that dream of playing in front of the 10,000 fans in the city finals. You got to get through the
especially
qualifying at Pauley Pavilion, the UCLA home, John Wooden's home. I mean, Wooden was just leaving at that point. He was still fresh. He had fresh footprints. His rolled up program was still on the floor of the gym.
He was at every game.
Right. He's still watching every game, of course. So this quarterfinal game, and I think you guys were favored, but you were struggling. And then you went on this binge, which reportedly was filmed on beta by Ron Kobrine, #1 sports fan. We haven't located it yet. I have a bounty on that video because I want to see it, because it was just one of the greatest things. But you want me to describe it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or I want to hear it from you.
You could describe it, because you probably know it better than I do at this point.
Yeah. So the team's down by a lot, and the time's running out in the game, and you put a bucket in, right? And then we come down the court, and you get a steal.
Right.
So you got a steal and went in for another bucket.
Dunk.
And went in for the dunk. And then what was the third thing?
I stole the inbound pass.
Right.
Got fouled.
So here we have a basket by Kobrine, stealing a steal, picked off the dribble, picked off the dribble at midcourt, in for a dunk. The crowd's going crazy. We realize we're back in the game, and then you steal the inbound pass and go in for an and one. So if we're counting at home, that's 2, 4, 6, and then did you drop the free throw? So 7 points. How much time off the clock?
Well, according to you, it was 15 seconds.
Okay, 7 points in 15 seconds. I think it was less than that, but that pretty much. If you can imagine a high school gym of kids screaming like crazy, and then we flooded the court afterward, and so here's this guy up on people's shoulders, and then had the balls to knock on Larry Brown's door. I love that.
Well, that story, to be honest, I think only 2 people remember that, me and you.
What about your dad? Your dad,
he might be. He might too. Yeah, okay.
He was probably like my dad when my dad filmed my comeback on the last lap of the city finals when I was in last place and passed a bunch of people and dove for the tape to make the last spot to the state meet, and like my dad diligently filmed all these track meets, and he'd go home and turn on the projector, the reel to reel, the old time stuff, and then on the last lap, it was like he got on a roller coaster. The whole film was like totally jumbled because he was getting excited and screaming because he's watching me come back. So whatever we got,
actually, the game was filmed by the coach. And my father didn't film that game, and it was filmed by the coach, and I actually did see it. And I contacted the coach. I'm still friends with him, actually, to this day. And he moved, and he could not find it. And I wanted that tape, and he could not find it.
Heartbreaking.
So it's gone.
Yeah. And you know what? Like that age where nothing was filmed, and now it's like everything is obsessively filmed and tracked, and some of your kids' videos on YouTube probably have thousands or tens of thousands of views.
Actually, one of them has 2 million.
Is it the faceplant one? It has 2 million. Oh boy, I guess we'll have to jump to your kids now. But I want to pick up with that UCLA basketball career. But
that's what we talked about. Is pretty much it.
Okay, well we're going to put the kids on hold for a second. So what you told me something very interesting about your UCLA experience there, and going up in practice against these. A lot of people call them the best guard tandem in the nation, and they called them the quickest and fastest guys. Rocket Rod Foster, Michael Holton, they were just top guys. And so this is like, you said it was such an intense experience that you really didn't need, you could say goodbye to basketball because you'd accomplished more than you'd ever thought you could. Yeah, it was really a neat experience. And in fact, I don't know how many, I think 6 or 7 of the guys on our team that year played in the NBA. So it was a very talented team. Is that all, 6 or 7?
Something like that, yeah. Including Mark Eaton.
Oh, sure.
Fact, yeah. 10-year career.
Mark Eaton, 7'4" center that I think they found him fixing cars. Yeah. And they said, you should go to a JC and play basketball. He was like 24 years old, right? Yeah. Yeah. And they ended up going all the way to the NBA. Had a great career blocking shots for the Jazz. Yeah.
Right. And he didn't play in our team. He didn't play in the UCLA. But when he got to UCLA, they found a role for him. But yeah, every day in practice, I'd either be chasing Rocket Rod Foster, who was probably one of the fastest guys in the league, or
probably one of the fastest guys ever to play in the NBA. If you don't believe us, look on YouTube or something. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. His career was cut short with a terrible car wreck, but he had good time in the Phoenix Suns and elsewhere. Right. It was a terrible car wreck. He messed up his legs. He was fine physically after that, except he just couldn't play basketball. And then the other guy, Michael Holton, was a monster guy. I mean, he was like probably 6'4", 200 and some odd pounds. So their games were completely opposite. One was a big, strong, athletic kid. The other was just a rocket. So it was fun every day. But yeah, that's true. After that season, I was done. I mean, I was burnt out. And Coach Brown left as well. So the whole thing of the team changed after Larry Farmer came in. Were you a senior, or you had more time at UCLA? Yeah, so only your sophomore year. Yeah. Did you get on the court? Did you get a stat line like Mark Titus? A trillion? There, Bill Walton, Laurel Sender, Marcus Johnson, and me. We're on the scoring list. I've played different places. He's played at Pauley. Okay, let me ask you a serious question. Like, did that distinction that you actually played for the number one team in the nation, you were on that team. At the time, we didn't end up number one. We lost in the playoffs. Yeah, but you had that cred, like you had a cup of coffee at the highest level. Did that like affect you the rest of your life? Did it open doors for you or any of that stuff? No, not really, because quite honestly, it was, like I said, I was a 13th man in 12 minutes, so I didn't really promote it too much. In fact, I'm kind of embarrassed by it. If I was out there actually playing every day, then yeah, I'd be more. But I played in a few games. That was it. So it's nothing to promote. Yeah, but it's so far beyond possibly that you dreamed even in high school. Well, actually, when I was 10, the assistant coach at UCLA was a father of one of the kids on my team, and apparently, when I was 10, I went up to him and asked him. So, Denny Crum, who actually hosted later, he won a title at Louisville. Yeah. I went up to him and said, "Mr. Crum, so when I get to UCLA, where do I pick up my uniform? I'm kind of worried." Apparently, I did that. Wow. You had that. I mean, just as a kid, some of those visions though are pretty powerful, and they, you kind of, I guess you imagined it or envisioned it. Yeah. Yeah. What about knocking on Brown's door? I mean, you were buoyed by a great season on the JV where you were one of the leading scorers, and right. The JV team would play against other schools and so forth. So it was pretty serious. Yeah, we played a variety of type of schools. I don't remember. I mean, I think we played like some of the junior colleges, and I don't remember who we played. Take on all comers. Whoever wants it. Whoever wants a piece of that. Right. So the interesting thing for me back at that time was we were just, absolutely marveling that, my running buddy, Steve, your younger brother, who I was very close with and we ran together, but like his older brother was on UCLA basketball. And it was just mind blowing because remember, this is like sold out every game. John Wooden's legacy, it's getting a little dusty. It was 4 years after the last title or 6 years after the last title, but that place still rocked. And you'd go and get your program at the door and it'd say, FYI, UCLA's record at Pauley Pavilion is 88-3 or whatever. For a while it was so impressive. I don't know if they talk about it anymore, but it was like they never lost there. It was just amazing. And here you are, this guy from the neighborhood. Once in a while you'd come in and out of the house and we'd be like, hey Dave, how's basketball at UCLA? You'd be like, pretty good. What are you watching? The surf punks? Yeah, surf punks on People's Court. Come and watch. We'd watch this tape over and over. Oh my gosh. There's another missing video. Those are my three, missing videos that I'd kill anything. I actually called the KTLA channel 9 or 11 or whatever, and I said, I want to buy this video. I'll pay any price. Just find it in your archives. Oh no, we're not allowed to. So it just stays in the memory banks. Oh, but what was cool at that time was like, soon after, we catch wind that you're training for this other crazy athletic event. You've transitioned entirely off the basketball court and into some fun new challenge back then.
Yeah, I burnt out from basketball. I was not planning to play anymore after that, at least competitively and at school. And I watched I think it was February 1982 Ironman, and saw Julie Moss crawling across the finish line. And I said, that sounds interesting. And then I had remembered reading the article in Sports Illustrated. I think it was Tom Warren. It was about Tom Warren. I don't know what year that was, about 80, 81. And so I had put it in my mind. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to do the Ironman. And I had no experience in any of those sports whatsoever. And so
running up and down the basketball court, I guess.
Yeah, but mainly the pool.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. It's only 2.4 miles. Yeah.
And so I think what I did was that was February, and I think I did a few easy triathlons or shorter triathlons in that fall. And I remember getting the pool. I think I went up and down the pool once or 50 or 100 yards, and I was done. I go, oh my God, I don't know how. It was crazy. Then I got injured, but I applied for the Ironman of '83, and I got in. And so I go, okay, now I better start training. And I remember the very first
That's kind of like our college story of I applied to the school and I got in. Because now, like, you ain't applying to the Ironman and getting in. You got to get your ass all over the world and do some Ironman qualifiers. Now I think the only qualifiers are full distance. Instead, it used to be able to do a half.
Wow.
I think you can still buy your way in, like this charitable thing for like 10 grand. So I assume the entry fee was less for you. And the 83.
That I remember that, but what I do remember was it was October 23rd, and I had done no training.
That's your brother's birthday.
Yeah. It was
okay. Steve's got his name dropped. We took care of him. Okay.
Well, you mentioned him earlier.
That's right. Yeah. We didn't mention who some people call the best athlete in the whole family, Rob Kobrine, but now we did. Okay.
Very good athlete.
Okay. Yeah. He's like Cooper Manning, though. He's unsung. Like Cooper Manning, they said he was the best athlete in the Manning family, like by a large margin. He was an incredible wide receiver, and then he couldn't play. He had a spinal issue, so we never got to see him. He was an NFL prospect wide receiver. Yeah.
Wow, his brothers did all right, though.
Brothers did okay. They're covering for him.
True. Rob is probably the best all-around athlete. And I had to start training, and I remember May 1st was my first training day. I went to Drake Stadium and ran one lap. And I go, oh boy!
Wait, you got in before you started training?
Well, yeah, I had some sort of injury that I just couldn't. I was trying to get over, and so I had no training whatsoever for at least 4 or 5 months. And
you're just sitting on that entry. He's like,
well, no, the entry came in right around then.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh!
So I got there. So I went to Drake Stadium, ran one lap, and I got in the pool. I may have swam, maybe 100 yards. And,
Sunset Canyon Recreation Center, watch out, make way in lane 12.
Yeah.
Here comes an Ironman entrant, probably the only kid at UCLA that was destined for the Ironman at that point.
Yeah, people didn't know about it back then,
right?
Like they do now.
Yeah. They definitely would have made a lane for you now, but back then you're probably like, watching out for kickboards.
Well, I do remember being at the pool, and I was struggling with my swim because I had no formal training. I saw some guy in the pool going back and forth, back and forth. I go, yeah, it looks so easy. I would just try to watch that guy. Turned out it was Brian Goodell.
Time for Google. I think he had the world record in distance free.
It's like a 1500,
and possibly
Olympic.
an Olympic gold or an Olympic medal.
I think he got Olympic gold.
Yeah, one of the great all-time American swimmers. So, and he was out of UCLA.
Yeah,
which had a dynasty team until they canceled the program. But they had some good swimmers coming out of that pool.
Right. And so,
Did you get any tips from him? I mean,
no, I didn't know at the time there was Brian Goodell. That I found out later. I thought, this guy really knows how to swim. It made it look so easy. Anyway, I spent the whole summer just biking, swimming, and running, and went out and did it.
Yeah, and so then you were in and out of the house a lot, and we'd just get these reports like, what did you do today, Dave? Well, I rode to the beach, rode down the coast, rode to Brentwood, rode back over the hill. Right. It was 54 miles. 54 miles! Wow! But that was my first exposure to someone who was actually doing this crazy Ironman thing, and it had a great impression. And I guess I followed, a few years later. Or actually, no, the year is 84. You did the Ironman in 83.
83, right.
Yeah, and so I got totally captivated by the sport in 84, and it was just like, I give you credit for that, and also the cold water plunge. You were the predecessor.
Well, you took it to a different level.
So the 83 is coming up. So you had a year to prepare, in other words.
No, I had May 1st to October.
That's
May
right.
1st
to
October is when I did it.
Oh, that's plenty of time, right?
Yeah. Well, I only worked 4 hours a day, so I had all afternoon. I'd go to work, take a nap, and then train.
Yeah. So that was the summertime.
That was the summertime.
What was your job?
I actually worked at an actuarial consulting firm in the morning.
Oh, they were one of those sponsors that gave you that perfunctory role, like Robbie Benson working the automatic sprinklers in the movie One-on-One.
No, it wasn't quite like that.
They pushed you pretty hard to the workplace. Yeah. So you went over there. What did you think of it? Tell us about how different. I mean, today it's a scene of unsurpassed with the branding and the massive crowds and all that. But I think it was kind of more low key back then.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about it. Don't forget how many years ago that was. A lot.
30-something years.
Yeah, 30-something years ago. But I remember the course being extremely windy, and I have visions of guys in front of me being thrown off the bike. That's what I remember.
For real?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They get thrown off the bike.
They were thrown off the bike. They were on the ground, going out to Javi.
Right.
I remember that.
Right.
And
I know no one talks about that enough. Like, you hear it just as an offhanded thing, but people to this day, especially the small females in their aero position, they'll just get blown right off their bike and into the lava.
Yeah, I saw several people they didn't throw into the lava, but they were on the ground, just by wind gusts. The other thing I really remember that's distinctly remembering is then waking up the night after doing it, waking up and feeling tired, thinking to myself, oh my God, how am I going to do that race? I'm so tired right now. And I had forgotten I had already done it.
Oh, that's like a dream state.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you get to full consciousness, and that was probably your most celebratory moment, even better than the finish line.
Right.
I did it. Wow. Wow. So you're still a college student at this time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Second year,
yeah.
third
I mean,
year.
Was there any other young guys there?
No, not that I knew of.
Yeah.
I actually trained to be, I got some of my high school friends, convinced them to come out there and do some triathlon. So I did a lot of training with some of my high school friends, biked with Mark Leonard quite a bit and ran with Tim Everett.
Oh, right. I remember
got Ben Balke out there doing triathlons.
Yeah, these are guys that were just all basketball,
Yes.
and then they were broadening their horizons. Yeah.
Stu Allisberg went out there doing some big
all
races.
these guys are getting plugs. And now I know this show is going to be like, it's going to have a spike in the listener downloads because you're going to go listen to your show. You might hear your name. Oh my God. Stu was my neighbor, and that guy shot more baskets than maybe the entire team put together. So I would give that guy a plug. I mean, he was out there shooting day and night. Like, you'd never not see him shooting. If you did, there was something wrong. You could go ring on the doors to see if he was okay.
Right.
Okay, so you finished the Ironman. You got that off your bucket list. Varsity basketball for the NCAA #1 ranked team, got that on your list. And then, as you plunged into adult life, what was your fitness commitment like over the years?
It's evolved a lot. For a long period of time, I had this routine schedule that I did every year. In the spring, I would play 9-foot basketball with my high school friends. We'd meet every Sunday at I think it was Brentwood Elementary School, and play from like March till June.
And then
what about Goodstein? Was he out there?
Oh, Glenn.
I wanted to drop his name in there because I don't know if he'll get a mention otherwise. I mean,
Yeah, Glenn was out there playing basketball every Sunday. He didn't do any triathlons, but he did do a marathon.
A marathon.
Yes.
Congratulations to him. Wow.
Another basketball friend.
When's your next marathon, Glenn? Thanks for listening. Oh, he's back on the golf course. He's away from his phone. Very good golfer, very naturally talented golfer that should practice more and get lessons. But he's got the athleticism. That's you guys were a really special team and a special group of guys that went a long way. And it was, even though it was a long time ago, it was very, very competitive and possibly. I wonder how you guys would stack up against today's good high school team. It'd be interesting.
Oh, I could tell you. I mean, I look at the way high school basketball is now, and my kids, and in the way we played, and you see evolution in front of you. I mean, it's a totally different. I mean, these guys play like the colleges played 30 years ago,
right? Because it's just so much more sophisticated, starting in fifth grade.
The athleticism is so much better.
Yeah. So you had this,
but I won't tell my kids this.
You'll just keep dropping little hints about
We could have beat you guys.
Would have been in overtime, but so the 9-foot tournament came around once a year.
Once a year, we play from the spring, played the big 9-foot tournament, and as soon as that was over, I went directly to beach volleyball and played beach volleyball all summer.
And was that like pickup, or was there
2-on-2 beach volleyball?
Just show up and play? Oh, and tournaments as well.
Yeah, we played tournaments.
Who was your partner?
I actually played with Rob a couple times, my brother Rob, and then I had another partner that I played with, this guy named Chris Barney, and we used to play tournaments all the time.
So what's cool is like you had these dates on the calendar, and I'm seeing now at my age and trying to calibrate my goals toward longevity and health and balancing in my busy life, right? Instead of just training all day like I had for that certain phase of my life. But I think it's really healthy to have something up there, on the wall, knowing that it's coming up, and you can point toward it, and it'll sort of keep you honest and focused to stay in shape, even though it's 5 months prior.
Yeah, this is not really about staying in shape. This is enjoying sports, competing, having fun. And so, we had this. One of the things that's clear is I like variety. And so I had the basketball in the spring, and then the summer was volleyball. And then as soon as the Thanksgiving came, I would start training for a marathon. Training back then is not like what it is now. And I would run the LA Marathon every year with my father.
Oh, really? How many times did you do that?
We did it quite a few years. I mean, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah. So your father, Ron, his nickname is Run Like Ron. Your nickname is All World. This guy was quietly in the background. He was one of the most inspirational guys for my running career, because this guy was so tough, and he was just out there plugging away no matter what. And he'd have this group of his buddies in the morning that ran at 5:30 a.m. every single morning in the Sepulveda Basin there. And he'd drag Steve along, and Steve would drag me along, and we'd get out there with these guys, and they just have such a great time. They'd be so social and cracking jokes. And meanwhile, they're actually quite accomplished runners. Unlike, a lot of people today are out there just plodding along. But these guys, while they were having fun and being, low key and not serious, your dad went out to Boston, the pinnacle for any marathoner over the past several decades, and he ran 30 in a row.
30 consecutive, yes.
Only starting when he was in his mid-40s.
I think he started when he was about 40.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he was routinely under 3 hours.
Yeah. It wasn't just running him. He ran him fast.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran him really fast.
And I interview him in my book, Primal Endurance, and it's a great finish to the book in the back chapter there, because he says, there wasn't any of this attention-grabbing obsession of like today's recreational athlete or amateur athlete, where they're hanging the medals all over their walls and tweeting up their workout times or putting it on the what's the GPS the Strava website.
Strava, yeah.
All that was a complete not notion, and to be able to be healthy and on the starting line 30 years in a row is an amazing achievement in itself, and it designates that he didn't get into that overtraining spiral, which is so common now when people are so driven and focused on results or going for the podium or whatever crazy notions they have that are causing them to break from a healthy approach. So I think what your dad did was an amazing athletic accomplishment, but he did it the right way, where it was part of a healthy life, and he wasn't he got over himself basically and just went out there and was having fun, but at the same time being able to drop in that tremendous competitive intensity, because this is no funny business to go try to run a sub 3 hour year after year after year.
Yeah, there's some of that. There's truth to some of that, but the other, quite frankly, his body is able to take a lot more than a normal body. He's, as you would call him, he's a mule. I mean, he could just go and go and go, and not really know that he's not supposed to be able to go and go.
Don't try this at home.
Yes,
for real, because I think, I don't know. I'll ask you, like, do you think certain people, have that genetics, or it's possibly, I'm not talking about their long limbs and their genetics for basketball, but like the genetics of the mind to be able to handle that type of regimen and actually thrive on it and appreciate it, whereas many people just couldn't imagine it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the mind or the body, but I definitely think that people are different in that way, and he and I are very different that way. I mean, I couldn't do what he did, and I break down. My body will break down. Yeah. And that's why I don't run marathons as much as he did. I don't know how many, 100-something odd marathons and 50-mile runs and all these races. Yeah. His body mind or body or both were built for that.
Oh, this guy, I got two stories that are that just blow your mind. One of them was in the valley on a very, very hot, smoggy day. It was like, 111. No kidding, not exaggerating. Used to get up that high. And we had a real smog problem back then in the 80s, and which has gotten so nicely cleared up by the improved emissions in the LA basin, right? But he was running home from work, which is over there on the west side of Los Angeles, over 20 miles. And he was like a couple miles from home, but he had that giant steep hill to climb on Winnetka. So he was like several hundred feet below his house. And it was so hot and smoggy. I was like, I didn't even want to go out in the car that day. And he's running along and we see him and he's just drenched in sweat. He does not look great. He's just suffering. And I'm like, let me give you a ride. He's like, no way, I don't want it. I'm like, please, it's too smoggy. You shouldn't. It was like a smog alert day, which happened all the time.
He probably
back
said,
then.
what smog?
Yeah. It was just like powering through, didn't even notice it. Right. And then the other one was when he ran the way too cool 50K up in where I was living. I was living on the course at that time. So I was kind of like helping these guys out get to the race start, and had his clothing or his gear in my car because he was finishing the 50K trail run, a very difficult trail run, and then immediately going in his rental car to the Oakland airport, flying home so that he could run the LA Marathon the following day. Probably one of those days when you were joining him. I don't know what you did on the Saturday before that LA Marathon, probably, a sauna and an ice bath or whatever, but he had no time to go over to my house and shower because he was worried about catching the flight. And so we're standing by the car and he's like, do you have anything in it, like a towel in your car? And I'm like, let me check. And there was nothing in there except for the check oil rag. And I'm like, and his eyes lit up when I reached for this thing and I had it in my hand. It hadn't checked too many oils, so it was a fairly clean rag, but it was still a rag. And he just started beaming, like full of joy that I had this thing. And he wiped down there in the parking lot and was off to the Oakland airport. I don't know who sat next to him on that flight, but what an incredible dedication. It was like nothing to him, you know?
One more quick story on that same note is that we used to run the LA Marathon every year, but one year I couldn't do it because I had to be out of town. And he says, well, there's a marathon where you're going to be on Saturday of the same LA Marathon week. Why don't we go to, it was in Dallas or somewhere around there. And why don't we run the marathon that day instead of the LA Marathon on Saturday, instead of the Sunday LA Marathon? And I said, sure. So we went and did the marathon. We were going a pretty good pace. It was like 90 degrees that day, and wherever it was in Texas, Dallas. And we were going at a 7-minute pace, and I was feeling great. And then at mile 20, I fell apart. I got heat stroke. And I had to struggle home and barely made it in. And I don't know what time I did, 3:20 or 3:30 or something like that. And so that I spent the whole night recovering the whole next week. He got on the plane, flew home, made it in time for the LA Marathon, and ran a 3:10 next day.
Out of a 90-degree heat, steamy marathon somewhere.
Yeah. And by the way, he was like 56 or 57 or 55 at that time.
Oh, mercy. Oh my gosh!
So it's a little different.
That's off the chart. I mean, the only other person I referenced like that was Tweetmeyer, the Western States runner, who was my neighbor. And these people would cross the finish line trying to break 24 hours or maybe a little slower, but it was everything they had. And they'd come in, you'd see these people that were just broken humans that had somehow crossed the Sierra in one day on foot. And this dude would finish the race. He won 6 times, and down 17, 18, 19 hours, whatever the weather was and stuff. And then he was known for coming back in the middle of the night and welcoming the finishers, and they'd be so excited to see here was the winner who finished 5 hours prior, and he's high-fiving you and all that. And then the next afternoon, he would be at the kiddie pool, the community pool with his kids, and my kids were out there, and he'd just be reading the paper and listening to the Giants game.
Right.
And I'd be
Nothing else.
How did it go? He goes, that was pretty good. I got a blister on my toe that kind of hurts. And besides the blister, you would not know that this guy, he might have done an aid station or something instead of racing 100 miles in late into the night, charging up the canyon. So yeah, something different going on there, man.
Definitely.
So I think it's time to talk about those kids. They had a cameo. 2 sons, Sam and Kevin.
Sam and Kevin, right.
I met them when they were 0 years old because they're almost the same age as my 2 kids and your brother's 2 kids. And we met out at the park in Calabasas one day. I think Sam was probably 2 and my son was 2. And so they shook hands, and then, maybe they'll cross paths at UCLA where they're both at now. But it's such a popular topic, especially with the athletic-minded folks like us who had our day. And now we have kids and we're in a whole different generation. And I was really involved in coaching and trying to learn about what it was to be a coach and a supportive coach, but also one that promotes, competitiveness and gets the best out of them. And you go on a Positive Coaching Alliance and they have all these tips and videos, and it's a big industry, this youth sports thing.
Right.
And it seems like it's, gone crazy and gotten so sophisticated that now high school athletics is like college. So you have these 2 kids that have navigated this thing beautifully and have achieved a high level in basketball and volleyball. So I want to hear about them.
Well, that's true. Both Sam and Kevin, they're very fortunate. They have some athletic ability, and they both really enjoy playing basketball and volleyball. So it's a matter of, they enjoy it. And so when you enjoy it and you have a little success, you do more of it, and it kind of breeds on itself. And so, yeah, they were always pretty good athletes in the Newport Beach area as they were growing up.
So when they were little guys, one of your goals as a parent is to introduce them to sports, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, with Sam, I didn't have to. I mean, I have video of Sam when he was like 10 months old, 11 months old, shooting baskets. He would shoot baskets every single day, all day. And he never made one. I mean, we had this little Nerf hoop up that we put up against the cupboard. It was probably about 5 feet high. He spent his whole day shooting the basket. I mean, that's all he did. And so when he was growing up, he had a ball in his hand at all times. I mean, I have pictures of him at graduation. He's got a basketball in his hand. I mean, it was just attached to him no matter where he is. There's little pictures, videos of him when he was like 2 years old, dribbling a basketball. That's all he did. So it's just, he just had something in him that he wanted to do it.
Right. So you're saying at that young of an age, it can't be this wonderful environment where you're putting up posters of the basketball players or putting in videos while he's trying to fall asleep in his crib. It was just something that was kind of innate.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was. And Kevin...
so Sam's older. So
Sam's 2 years older.
So imagining by the time he's 4, he's doing behind the back drills or whatever, and he's going to influence his younger brother when the younger brother gets to 2 and he follows along.
Yeah, like I said, he had a ball in his hand wherever he went. And, Kevin would always be looking at him and watching him and always had an eye on him and paid attention to everything he did. And so he kind of just followed the same path.
So how did you get him into sports and in their first organized experience, and how did that whole thing go?
I think his first, again, this is the small-time Newport Beach Boys Club, I think was his first day. He was in 3rd grade. I didn't know anything about it. We just signed him up. And it was kind of fun because his very first quarter of basketball, this
is what grade? Like third graders is when you start?
Yeah, for very first quarter, I had no idea what to expect. And I didn't coach that team. I was before I started coaching. The very first quarter, I think the team was up 10-0 and Sam had 10 points. I mean, every time the kid got the ball, he'd steal it, dribble down, and it was like a 5-minute quarter. And it was really because he was so far more experienced than these kids. Because he played every day, all day, and he was just so much more aware of what to do. So that's really what was his start.
So you started coaching a little bit after that?
I started when he was in 4th grade, and I basically coached their basketball teams 4th through 8th grade. all the way through.
Interesting.
Both kids, yeah.
Stepping off at 8th grade, that was my strategy too, because I feel like by the time they're in high school, you turn it over to professionals who do that for a living and have done it for years and decades, and just sit in the stands and clap.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate to be able to coach the middle school teams at their high school, and so that was just a great experience. It being involved in the school teams, although a lot of people didn't want to do it because of the politics, and you had to cut people. And so you had to cut, some of their best friends' kids after the team. Their parents are like, your friends. But that was part of the job.
So how did that go for you? I mean,
it was a ton of fun. Those teams were, for whatever reason, we had so much talent, and we never lost a game. And I think the closest game we had was like maybe 20 points. So
I guess by this third grader coming out there and having his first game and scoring the points and realizing that this success is going to feed on more success and more work ethic, does it really make a big difference to come in sort of with that starting point where you have an advantage and you're going to be able to leverage that the rest of your high school career?
Yeah, I think it helps. He got it mainly because of the experience he had before then, and I think obviously the success breeds more success, no doubt about it, because it encourages them to keep playing and keep doing it. No doubt.
I guess if you held a kid back like 2 years, we're laughing because I want to bring up this is like this moral dilemma. I'm taking a survey to see how everybody feels about this, but it does feel to me like when you have that early success, it could be third grade, or it could be like in my case, I ran a couple track meets in middle school, and I was this little shrimpy guy that was nothing to be reporting home on the major sports, but I was able to win these races, and something in my something came into my experience where it's like, wow, that was a profound impact. Even though it was some insignificant moment, I was able to take that and build some confidence naturally.
It helps your self-esteem.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now with all this competitiveness and this strong desire to have a kid become a college athlete, we're seeing routinely kids being held back so they can be older than starting kindergarten late or whatever they're doing, holding homeschooling in 9th grade and then entering high school as a 16-year-old player. And in an extreme case, that's been a Southern California news story that a kid was held back twice, and turns out he was a very high-level basketball player that went off to an Ivy League basketball opportunity. So a life-changing winning ticket, a lottery ticket, if you get into one of those Ivy League schools and you're an athlete, it's something that's esteemed by all parents. Would want nothing more for their kid to be a basketball star and then off to the most elite institutions in the world. But if you're 2 years older than your class, it feels like there's a moral question here, because are you gaming all the kids that are following the rules in terms of age appropriate grades?
Yeah, that's definitely a dilemma, and it's certainly prevalent these days, especially out here in Orange County. All the top high schools, most of the kids are holdbacks. And that particular kid, he's a good high school player. 2 years ago, he was not such a great high school player, but it worked for them.
Very political reply there. In your kid's case, so. The coaching, did you have some intentions going in? I mean, you have a lot of background of how you and your buddies were the ultimate teammates, becoming lifelong friends. You want to get away from those politics and those evil influences that we see here and there, read about watch on YouTube, or read about these tragic stories of the father pushing the kid too hard. So what were you armed with going in?
Well, I had very good models. I always was a John Wooden discipline. I always followed John Wooden, and my high school coach, John Furlong, was very, very good coach and taught how to play and how to behave and how to everything, great modeling. And I just continued to apply that and, tried to treat every kid fairly and try to, promote. And I was always positive. The whole idea was to try to be positive and supportive to the kids.
Positive Coaching Alliance.
That's all I was trying to do.
Did you have any issues or fireworks or problems with cutting kids and disputes or meddling parents or things like that?
Not really. I mean, I had one, but it was always a very sensitive subject when you had to cut some of your friends' kids. their kids' friends. And I did have a couple, but I try to choose to remember the ones that some of the parents came up to me and hugged me and said, I'm so happy you did the right thing. I understand how hard that it was for you. And so those are the ones I would try to remember.
Wow.
Some of the parents that understood the situation and realized how hard it was for me, and then consoled me for doing it, cutting their kid.
Yeah, it seems like in the workplace when you have to terminate someone, and you see the writing on the wall 1,000 times if you're the employee and things aren't clicking, or if you don't know and you're oblivious, that's another story. But when it comes down to it, it's like. In my case, I got cut from the Taft team, and it opened up these incredible door to from the basketball team. Which
who cut you?
Goodstein says it was him, but I think it was Drucker, and Goodstein was the assistant coach.
Okay.
And it was a traumatic moment in my life, so much so that I decided to protest it and come back and demand a meeting. And I dug up a newspaper clipping from the Park League basketball championship where my crappy team got destroyed by the Woodland Hills Park team, but I was leading scorer in the game because all I did was shoot because we couldn't do anything else. And I presented this clipping to the coach and said, give me another chance. And the coach said, okay, well, you can practice with us, but you're not on the team. And I was like, well, what kind of kid gets into a situation like that? So I did one more practice.
Wait a second. That wasn't too much different than my UCLA experience.
The 13th man on a 12-man team. Yeah, you can have a uniform if someone loses one. But I did one more practice, and then I went straight to the cross-country course, and I won the first varsity race. And so, it was that competitive intensity turned in a healthy, positive direction. So I appreciate all those people. Same with my college running coach, actually, who presided over the program that got me broken down and destroyed and sick season after season, 5 seasons in a row. I give him tremendous credit toward inspiring me to become a professional triathlete, because if the running wasn't such a disaster, I would have been a mediocre college runner.
Right, you had to morph into something else as things progressed.
So now these guys are getting into high school, the Kobrine brothers, and it's getting pretty serious. We're talking about CIF titles and recruiting and deciding which sport, and this volleyball thing, which went absolutely crazy because this is the national hotbed for youth volleyball, Southern California, Orange County, and so it started to get heated up. Tell me about the journey through high school.
Well, they both competed in both high school volleyball and basketball, and did pretty well. Sam, his senior season made first team CIF in both sports, which is pretty
both sports.
Yeah, pretty good accomplishment. It was first team all county in volleyball, which is pretty good. He was actually, if I'm going to sit here and brag about him, he was a third. Number 3 ranked player in the country as far as on the recruiting thing. The volleyball magazine had number 3, which is pretty exciting for him. He went on a few recruiting trips, and we got to stand on the sidelines at 50-yard line of the Michigan-Ohio State football game in Ohio State. What a great thrill! He's 16 years old, and he's standing right next to Archie Griffin, and the whole place is filled with 110,000 people. So it's some pretty neat experiences. But he always just was going to go to UCLA. That's what he wanted, and UCLA made an offer, and he took that to play volleyball. He really didn't have as many offers in basketball because he was just such known as a volleyball player. And Kevin, he actually rejected playing volleyball. He did not want to play. Sam and I used to play all the time in the house, and Kevin would say, "No, I'm not playing. I'm not playing." We hit him the ball. He would just let it fall in front of him. And then finally I told him that, if you start playing volleyball, you're going to be dunking earlier, and you'll be dunking. Your jumping is going to
famous
improve.
One-liner.
Yes.
There's another quote for the show. I love it.
And his eyes lit up. And he said, "Do you think I could dunk in 9th grade?" I said, "I know you'll dunk in 9th grade." And so next year he joined volleyball, and he did dunk in 9th grade.
I think that's the title of the YouTube video, Kevin 9th grade dunk. One was the 360 dunk of this young kid going up.
I know he did one in 360 when he was in 10th grade. I know that.
It was like on slow motion and the whole thing. He went right there to Corona Del Mar and just picked up the momentum from his older brother and sailed through incredible seasons for both basketball and volleyball.
Right. And he did. They both played club volleyball, and that's where you get all the exposure. And when Kevin, after his sophomore season, he won the MVP of the national championship tournament and got a lot of exposure there. And UCLA, was calling him. And when John Sperall calls you, he's the head coach of the Olympic team. It means a lot. And so he called Kevin a couple times, and I told Kevin, hey, you should go around, visit other schools, see, what's out there.
Well,
you're only 15
didn't
years old.
Sam get a car from Ohio State even though he didn't go there?
No,
it's just a rumor? Okay.
None of that stuff happened, yeah. I was waiting for it, but it never came. But and I told Kevin, go to all these other schools and see, SC coach had called a couple times. And then Sam called him and said, Kevin, what school would you want to go to? I mean, you're not going to go to Harvard. You're not going to go to Princeton. You're not going to go to Stanford. UCLA is the best school. Why would you go anywhere else? And Kevin said, you're right. So,
wow, his brother recruited him. Beautiful.
Him. Yeah.
So Kevin just graduated. So he's locked up to go to UCLA and start as a freshman.
No, he's got to be going to UCLA. He's not starting as a freshman.
Oh, I mean, start school as a freshman. Yeah. No, they don't give away starting spots.
No.
Some of the other schools, yes, but never at UCLA. Wasn't Wooden famous for recruiting and saying, "I'll give you a fair shot"? I think didn't he tell Lou Alcindor, you'll have a fair shot at getting some playing time if you come to my school.
Right.
Instead of I'll give you a house, a car, and whatever else. Yeah, and I think a lot of the players respect that. Yeah,
absolutely.
So at home, going through these years where it's starting to get pretty serious and consuming for these young kids' lives, what was your role and what did you do? You think you did well, and what would you do differently?
Differently, I think I would probably put a little bit more balance in our lives. It was just the three of us in the house, and my sister lived there as well. And we were just always focused on three of us on sports. Whatever sport it was, and we probably didn't get it. Not that they got bad grades, but I could have focused more on their grades and their schooling, and focused more on reading. Reading's very important, and we didn't focus enough on stuff like that. So that's probably what I would have done different. That's for sure.
You think it would have made a difference? I mean,
it was hard.
Hounding them to do the schoolwork or whatever that wasn't.
You have to try to find a way to make it interesting to them, and that was we didn't do that as well.
Did you have any leverage points where they couldn't drive to the gym if they didn't finish their homework or any of that nonsense?
No, I didn't. I don't think I did too much of that.
Yeah, so I imagine in sports you basically just had to kind of keep them healthy, make sure they're not overdoing it perhaps, or just making good decisions with what teams they're going to join and how much they're going to take on or whatever.
There's some of that. Yeah, you do have to do a little bit of that. But I let Kevin self-manage himself, and he was very good at it. He said to me, he goes, I'm not going to play club volleyball in the fall because I really want to focus on my basketball. Sam, on the other hand, I'm not missing a single game or single practice or anything. I mean, when he was 14, he won the gold medal in the Junior Olympics, which is the biggest tournament of the year in volleyball. And he was on cloud 9. And it was midnight. We were flying home, and we were in the car, and he was barely awake. And I said, "Oh, by the way, Sam, I just got a text, and you have your ninth grade ninth grade basketball game tomorrow morning at 8 in the morning." It was midnight. We were leaving Dallas or something. He says his response was, "Love it,
love it." Wow. So it sounds like there was what you might call a hands-off approach, especially in comparison to the influences we see around us.
Well, I didn't have to. I mean, they were self-motivated, so I didn't have to push it. They were just doing it themselves. I had there were a couple things that the only minor things I might have done is I had to make sure they were on the right club team, because club team in volleyball is very, very important. And he was 14, Sam was a setter, and it was a good position for him. He was a very good setter, and I saw a future in that for him because I went over and watched the 18-year-old kids play when he was 14. These are big, strong kids that were just pounding the ball. I'm saying, Sam's not going to be that tall. These guys are 6'7", 6'6", and he's not going to be a hitter. And so I went, and then the club that he was at put him in as a hitter at 15. And he was a good hitter for a 15-year-old, I thought. And I understand the coach did the right thing for the team. And, he's great, perfect for that team. But I looked at the 18-year-olds and I said, I know Sam, he's going to want to play at the highest level. And, when he turns 18, he wants to be on court A1, which is the top players. I'm not sure he's going to have the size and physicality to play at that level. So we moved to I called the club and I said, my son Sam, we know Sam. He goes, we want to maybe move over, but he wants to be a setter. We'll put him in a setter. In fact, we'll put him in a position we could hit and set. And so we put him over there. And then fast forward to when he was 18, and how much I knew about volleyball is UCLA recruited him as a hitter. So he actually became a hitter in college.
Oh my gosh, it's kind of like it's kind of like in the AAU basketball where it's so competitive so early that the kid who's 6'1" in 8th grade is playing posts all the way along, and then he's 6'2" in 11th grade, and the kids who were 5'4" that were playing point guard can now they're 6'1",
right? And
you wish that you maybe focus more on development instead of winning. I mean, did you run into that at all? I mean, these guys are playing on the best teams, and that's kind of my big, grand observation is they focus too much on winning rather than player development.
Absolutely. And I tell everybody, because people ask me what my thoughts are,
What's your secret? How do you get two kids to have a Division I scholarship?
Well, no, very lucky. That's just very lucky. They have the desire and they have some skills and athleticism.
Can you share that racist comment you fielded in the stands one day when Sam was performing on the basketball court?
Well, people ask me all the time, is their mother a good athlete? And I'm all, thanks.
Wow.
Some of the people are joking and some people I'm not so sure.
What were you going to say after that?
The thing I tell people is that you talk about about focus on winning is that these clubs you really have to be your kid's advocate in these clubs because you have to look out for your kids in these clubs and because they're there to win and they're there to promote the club. I mean, they want to help the kids and they do help the kids, but you got to be your kid's advocate.
Nice. Dave, we've covered a lot here. Yeah. We've gotten shouted out to just about everybody. Did we shout out to Eric down the hall? I told him to bust in and crash the podcast with his profound insights about following in his father's footsteps. He gets credit for. He's now at 25 or something.
23.
So he's run 23 consecutive Boston marathons overlapping from Ron. And so I guess if you put it together, now we're at 40 something where there's been a Kobrine finishing that race.
Well, yeah, no, when my father first started, Eric was 10 and he went to every single race my father did. It was a trip that Eric and my father would do every year as my father was accumulating his 30-year streak. And one year Eric showed up and decided to run it also. And now the roles have switched. My father goes with Eric every year as he watches,
how beautiful.
And watches Eric run it.
Oh my gosh! I also like I was talking to your dad a couple of years ago and asking him what his running likes now, and he goes, "I just walk now."
Yeah.
And it's like the most graceful transition from that that period of life where it was a really important thing to get on the starting line and go break 3 hours and have that fun and that competitiveness, and now he just still enjoying the nature, the Nicene Marks trails and. Speaking of enjoying the trails, we didn't really plug Dr. Steven a lot, but this guy, I mean, we're high school teammates. I'm trying to sprint and see if I can do a couple more 200s, and he's running 100-mile weeks still, like vacation from his doctoring job, and he'll go off and put up on Instagram. What's it, Instagram? It's e-wildlife photo or something. You can see him running on trails, and then there's a picture of a grizzly bear, and then there's more trails, and it's going to go viral after this podcast, I think. So good plug there.
Should be.
Yeah. Dave, thanks for spending time here. That was a great show. So glad to catch up and hear about everything.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I always enjoy listening to your other show, so hey.
You can't beat that morning routine. That's rock solid. Rock solid. We're going to come film you for a viral YouTube video. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day. Hi, it's Brad to talk about Ancestral Supplements. Question for you. How's it going with the critically important health objective of consuming some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, namely bone marrow, collagen, and nose-to-tail organ meats like liver, heart, kidney, and more? Yeah, how's it going? Pretty poorly? How did I guess? I have to admit the same. I'm sorry, folks. I've known for a long time, since Dr. Kate Shanahan and her wonderful wonderful book, Deep Nutrition, emphasized that this, and now we have a fantastic and convenient solution from Ancestral Supplements because they make New Zealand-sourced bone marrow and nose-to-tail organ meats, liver, heart, kidney, pancreas, spleen, and more, delivered in simple, convenient gelatin capsules. Oh my gosh, I love this product, and I love what this company's all about. Go on their website, ancestralsupplements.com, read one of the most impactful and inspiring mission statements you'll ever see from a company. Listen to how they describe their product. Traditional peoples, Native Americans, and early ancestral healers believed that eating the organs from a healthy animal would strengthen and support the health of the corresponding organ in the individual. The traditional way of treating a person with a weak heart was to feed the person the heart of a healthy animal. Sound hokey to you? I'm sorry, but this is extremely well supported, with scientific evidence confirming that these are the foods that our DNA evolved with and are sorely missing from the modern food supply. That's why Ancestral Supplements says that they're putting back in what the modern world has left out to return people. And hey, if you're a clean living person that kind of doesn't like the idea of popping a bunch of synthetic vitamins in the name of health, going over to GNC and buying 12 bottles, this is an entirely different story. This is real food packaged conveniently so that you don't have to worry about your liver making skills or how to best cook a kidney. Just swallow the pills, man. I throw them in my smoothie every morning. I'm throwing down the beef organs, the beef liver, the bone marrow. There's so many other ones on their absolutely fabulous and educational website. Thanks for trying it. AncestralSupplements.com. You will love it. Hey, let's talk about Tribali Foods. If you're super busy and you want a convenient meal to make in a short time, but you don't want to compromise great taste, gosh, doesn't that sound like a commercial? It is a commercial, but it's for something super awesome. And these are frozen organic beef and chicken patties and sliders with awesome creative flavors like Mediterranean, chipotle, umami with the mushroom mixed in, and also these sliders, chicken apple and pork sage. What you do is you take this frozen box, cut with the scissors, the beautiful little pre-made patty, drop it on the pan, cook it up, and it's ready in a few minutes. And this company is a real, live, authentic, girl power entrepreneur, small business success story, home kitchen inspired. Welcome everyone to the new world where the big multinational beasts that make garbage food are getting knocked off by people who care about what they eat and about their health. And Tribali was started by my friend Angela Mavridis in Southern California, lifelong family restaurant business member. She was a vegetarian for 35 years, and one day she had a steak, felt great, and started on this path of experimenting with creative ground beef recipes and flavorings in her kitchen. All her friends loved it. She was buying tons of ground meat from Whole Foods, and they're like, hey, what are you doing with this? So she brought them in a little sample. They loved it. They flew her to Texas to meet with the national buyer, and they said, literally, start a business and we will place a large order. So this is a wonderful small business success story with love and attention to everything that goes into this product. Delicious, totally keto friendly. Go look at the pork mini sliders. We're talking 1 gram of carbs, 11 grams of protein, 17 grams of fat, and you get 15% off. Just visit tribalifoods.com, TRIBALI, and enter Get Over Yourself in the coupon field, and you are good to go. Shipped directly to your door, cold packed, frozen stuff, thawed out in a day, and you have quick dinner, quick lunch. And also available at finer stores like Whole Foods, Whole Dudes, Nugget, Natural Grocers, Super Targets, and launching into Walmart as well. Good job, go girl! TribaliFoods.com.